Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. I'm just going to let a couple more people trickle in, and then we'll get started. Thanks. Okay. Hi, everyone. We're just sorting out some technical difficulties here, but we're ready to get started. So welcome to our webinar, Smart Business, How to Transform Your Building Through Intelligence. My name is Golzar Yagapur. I'm a marketing specialist here at Digital Lumens, and I'm joined today by Chris Conway, Director of Marketing at Digital Lumens, Cheryl Cooper, Procurement Manager at Liberty Hardware, and Jason Rose, Systems Administrator, also at Liberty Hardware. Cheryl and Jason have joined us for today's webinar to discuss their experience of transforming their own building with networked lighting, and we'll hear from them during the second half of the webinar. So just some housekeeping items today before we get started. This presentation will be available to all registrants, and it will be on our BrightTalk channel as an on-demand webinar. We also encourage you to follow us on social media to stay up to date with upcoming company news, events, and product announcements. Today we'll be covering the industry trends and implications of smart building applications, and some of the things to consider in making the transition to a smart building. Then we'll hear from Cheryl and Jason about their experience, and finally, we'll open it up for Q&A. So let's get started. Navigant published a white paper at the end of last year detailing the smart building trends to watch out for this year. Some of the trends that are relevant to today's discussion include hardware and software analytics that will improve the performance of the building, intelligent buildings and how they're going to enhance the occupant experience and provide benefits beyond traditional business ROI, and the fact that electric utilities and energy providers are also going to increase their investment in building management systems and building intelligence. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about what exactly a smart building really is. If you talk to 10 different people, you're going to probably get 10 different definitions. For the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to define a smart building as a sensor-rich structure designed to collect actionable data and predictive signals. That data will result in cost, productivity, or employee engagement and safety improvements. Ideally, all of those things. This definition is in line with the top two trends published by Navigant. They are intelligence and the energy cloud will redefine buildings as energy assets, and building management systems and other smart networks will provide benefits beyond energy efficiency. So let's take a minute and talk a little bit more about energy. Buildings can be networked and monitored to control and optimize energy usage, whether it's lighting or asset-based. And this can have a huge impact on your bottom line depending on how large or active your building is and how many buildings you manage. In the U.S., the Energy Act of 2007 has set up the need to monitor energy consumption. And in California, we're seeing initiatives such as Title 24 that have very specific timelines for net zero energy. And even on a global scale, since the Paris Agreement, which some of you might know as COP21, different countries around the world are coming together to consciously and effectively lower energy consumption. For example, transitioning from legacy lighting to LEDs can save you approximately 40% of your energy costs. Now, if you layer in intelligence on top of that, you can save 70% or more. So let's talk about that. Energy savings are probably the most obvious benefit, but there's a lot more to it. Thanks to the IoT, things like operational productivity, predictive maintenance, and employee safety and engagement, and emergency responses are now possible. The amount of data that is collected also provides a significant amount of business insights that will have a large impact on departments across the organization. In order to better understand these benefits, let's take a look at two of the most innovative buildings in the world. They are the Edge in Amsterdam and the Capitol Tower in Singapore. The Edge has a smart LED lighting system with over 30,000 sensors that are connected to the building management system. These sensors use motion, temperature, and light levels to adjust the energy use. When nobody's in the office, heating and cooling is set to a minimum, and then when employees are present, they actually have the ability to easily customize their temperature and light settings through a mobile app. So, in addition to the obvious benefit of a more comfortable and engaged workforce, the Edge actually uses 70% less electricity than the average commercial office building. The Capitol Tower in Singapore is using the IoT to manage air quality. Typically, parking garages are a major source of pollutants in commercial buildings. Now, in this specific tower, there's sensors on the exhaust fan that are connected to a building management system, which will turn on automatically if carbon monoxide goes above a certain level. As you can imagine, this saves a tremendous amount of energy since it's not on all the time, and it also improves air quality. Now, these buildings are really aspirational for a lot of us, but it is possible to implement some of their elements in your existing building. The common ground between all of these examples is data. By linking everyday activities to the internet and collecting information, facility or building managers and employees can use it to make decisions that have a significant impact across the entire organization. And it's easier to make a smart building from the ground up. But if you're working with an existing structure, one approach to make it intelligent and collect comprehensive building-wide data is using lighting as the conduit of the overarching platform. In other words, using lighting as the backbone of a smart building. Now I'll hand it off to Chris, who's going to walk us through this concept.
Thanks, Golzar. Excuse me. So it's easy to look at lighting simply and solely for its original purpose, which is obviously illumination. But lighting actually has three important qualities that make it the ideal backbone for smart buildings. It receives constant power. There's uniform spacing, which means that it spans the entirety of every building with a bird's eye view of every occupant, every asset. And it can be easily networked. Connected lights can be easily equipped with the means to collect a massive amount of data and helps eliminate the need for any additional infrastructure. So once you have that network in place through lighting, a facility or organization can realize three important benefits very easily. Improved efficiency and sustainability, operations improvements, and a meaningful enterprise-level influence. Now, for efficiency and sustainability, we all know that there's no shortage of needless energy use. Forrester published a report just last month discussing the workforce transformation that's already taking place thanks to the IoT, where they found that approximately 30% of all energy consumed by U.S. commercial buildings is wasted. You can imagine that might be even higher in industrial spaces that work around the clock or involve 6 or 7 day weeks. Now, while standard non-networked LEDs can provide some degree of savings, say 40%, Their lack of intelligence means the benefit stops there. With a networked and intelligent LED lighting system, you have the ability to not only achieve additional savings through daylight harvesting and advanced controls, but most important, both quantify and validate the resulting savings, which helps justify the ROI of the project and potentially qualify you for valuable rebates from utilities or other companies. Now, networked intelligent lighting can also help improve operations thanks to the wealth of data and insights provided by it. Tracking trends over time, whether energy, occupancy, or asset usage, can inform decisions on scheduling, floor plans, and other business-critical applications, including some less obvious opportunities. For example, Forrester researchers found that one of the biggest productivity killers in an office are empty or overbooked conference rooms. In a smart office with a smart building with intelligent lighting, you can integrate occupancy data with a scheduling system like Google Calendar or Outlook, which means that rooms can dynamically book or cancel a reservation based on occupancy and real-time usage. Another application might be to provide employees with the ability to customize lighting, temperature, and airflow of their individual workspaces, similar to the Edge in Amsterdam. Industrial workspaces can realize any number of benefits from sensor-based intelligence, whether tracking occupancy and shift trends and reallocating resources accordingly during the busiest or slowest periods, or applying asset-level power monitoring or general asset usage to understanding how to further optimize your operations. Beyond commercial and industrial spaces, there are also opportunities in verticals such as healthcare, where the data gathered by sensors can speed patient admit times if administrators can easily glance at a floor map and see which rooms are free. Finally, third benefit is enterprise-level influence. So network lighting also introduces the possibility of sensors and the data that comes along with those sensors to expand benefits beyond energy across the entire enterprise through applications like HVAC, fire and life safety, and security. Additionally, the information collected by all sensors, whether it's for a single building or multiple facilities, is integrated into an overarching back-end software system. This consolidation means that users and businesses can easily access enterprise-level data, and as a result, user-friendly reports, which can easily equip team members across the organization to make data-based decisions in a timely manner. Now, while network lighting may make building intelligence more accessible than ever, there are some considerations to be aware of during the design and implementation process. Golzar is going to discuss some ways in which you can transform your building most effectively, and then we'll hear from Cheryl and Jason, who will share their firsthand experience.
Thank you, Chris. So the first consideration is goals. You need to sit down with your team and figure out exactly what the primary and secondary goals are. Identify the most important short-term priorities like energy savings and the potential secondary opportunities. Then the means. Through what means are you going to implement intelligence? You'll hear from the team at Liberty Hardware about how and why they selected lighting. Then there's data and software. Once you install a building intelligence system, you're going to have access to an enormous amount of information. And it's really important to make yourself familiar with not just the physical implementation of a network system, but with the data consolidation and reporting tools that will be available to your team upon installation. Evaluating the software it's really essential in order to avoid having members of your team crunching numbers. Because at the end of the day, remember that the data is there to enhance their job and help them make strategic decisions. Really great back-end software will process the data for you. Then there's collaboration. For a lot of organizations, these kinds of projects are first of their kind, so it's important to take a look back at the goals because chances are there's opportunities for networked building intelligence to have an impact well beyond the obvious. So collaborating across functions prior to implementation can reveal previously unconsidered benefits. And finally, proper training for both the hardware and software is crucial in order to maintain and take full advantage of the network system. Now, before I hand things off to Cheryl and Jason, I wanted to share with you the 5-step implementation process provided by Schneider Electric. They are a pioneer in the IoT space, and Digital Lumens is part of their Smart Structure program. So they recommend starting small with pilot projects and staying focused. Then evaluate ROI before you broaden the project scope. Make early strides with energy efficiency projects, and then gradually expand the project to integrate asset monitoring and management tools. And finally, move to comprehensive asset coverage within a dynamic network. If you'd like more information on their implementation process, you can access their IoT 2020 report on their website. Now let's hear from Cheryl and Jason over at Liberty Hardware.
Hello everyone, this is Jason Rose.
And this is Cheryl Cooper with Liberty Hardware.
We wanted to go through and give you kind of a background of how this project got started and a little about Liberty Hardware. So we sell a lot of things, some of the big box home improvement stores, not just hardware like you think of, but all kinds of products throughout their line of offerings there. We have about a 700,000 square foot warehouse here. And for a while, we've been trying to get continuous improvement built into the culture of Liberty Hardware, and that's really where this project stemmed from. We had a team of people who were dedicated to just looking at processes or general things and see if there's any way we could make that better and improve on them. Actually had the idea for LED lighting in the warehouse, took it to the team, and then it took off from there. So first step I think that helped us out is having that culture, at least those people involved that are very continuously improvement mindset, having that there I think helped out a bunch. I hate to call it the previous system, I hate to call it a system really, because it wasn't a system more than your home house lights were. If the light was on, the lights were on. If the switch was off, the lights were off. So they were not networked. Even on the weekends and sometimes at night, the vast majority of the lights were on, depending on where the security guard was walking at the time. We have emergency lighting that stayed on all the time. So that's a little bit about the warehouse and what we had to start with. So we started on this LED endeavor for a while there and looked at quite a few companies to see what might be best for us. And what we wanted was, of course, the intelligence to at least dim when someone wasn't there. The reporting side that we got was definitely a plus. We'll talk about that a little later. And we wanted to be able to customize it because we have different pieces in our warehouse, I'm sure like most of you out there do, that some are used very sparsely and some are used very heavily. So we want to be able to customize those zones and set up different rules for how that area is used. We did do a trial with a couple of different companies, and even though we wanted a quality product, we really never got a chance to see what kind of quality we had until we took down the trial. The other companies came in, put up the lights, and walked away. We never actually saw them. So I guess another tip would be to look at the lights that you're looking at to make sure they are quality. And keep in mind, these lights, 15, 20 years is not out of reason. So when you're looking at them, keep that in mind. Or do you think this light will last 15 or 20 years by the quality of it and how it looks? One thing we got into was we almost went down the wrong trail there with a different company. We got Cheryl involved from the beginning procurement, and they really turned us up on her, turned everything over, and changed what we looked at. So I'm gonna pass over to Cheryl to talk about the implementation. She led the implementation and got everything in place. So.
Hi, this is Cheryl. For us, in order for the project to be successful, we established ownership right up front so everyone knew what their role would be and what was expected of them. That was crucial from the beginning. In our case, we had a team that involved procurement, information technology, operations management, maintenance, and of course the suppliers. It was crucial to establish who made certain decisions. We had to know from the beginning where the electricians could work and during what times throughout our business day, in which case operations had to make that decisions. At the time of this implementation, we were running 3 shifts. We had a kickoff meeting at the beginning to lay the groundwork. We also had debriefing during and after the install. We wanted to be sure that we were making progress, so I had asked that after every night of work, we were provided with an install and removal count of the lights and our current fixtures. This was extremely helpful for all parties involved because it did hold accountability not only for the supplier, but if something was, I guess, out of order in our distribution center. After the install, we did have a meeting to review what went well and what we could have done better. It was also important to establish and determine who was to be trained on the software. Because this is intelligent software and people have their own personal preferences, but it all really ties back into the financials, we didn't want training for everyone. We wanted to be able to limit and have control of who could make changes to the dimming, when the lights should be on, when they should be off. In our case, we gave the authority to our IT department, and we formed a lighting committee to review requests for changes. This way, we could tell upfront, based on the reporting, what financial impact a change may have and was it really necessarily or a personal preference, but we did have to address them all and do have to address them all. It was important that someone was appointed to review the financials as the project was in process. In that case, it was me, the procurement manager, that took the responsibility of the install and how we were billed, if we were billed properly. And for a project this size, it's important for everyone to stay on track, not only with the financials, but with the movement in our warehouse and everybody keeping and taking ownership.
Some of the benefits we got from this project, some we expected and some we didn't actually. Energy savings, of course, is the obvious one. We expected to save money on our energy costs, and we definitely did that. We actually were able to remove 20% of the lights we had in the warehouse. So we not only installed better energy efficient lighting, we removed the physical number of lights that were out there because of the difference in lighting that we had. So that was a big plus. Every month we have a safety committee that meets and talks about things in the warehouse that might be deemed unsafe, that kind of thing. The lighting came up in every one of those for a very long time. I don't know how many, but almost every month the lighting was brought up as a safety concern. So doing this project was important not just for the monetary savings, but for the employee safety and the productivity out there in the warehouse. And we've definitely seen a big improvement, and not one time has it been mentioned since about the lighting being a safety issue. The biggest complaint we have now is the lights might be too bright. so it turned out pretty good. Efficiency, we with the software we have and the data we're gathering, you can tell where hotspots, I guess you call them, hotspots in the warehouse are, where there might be a lot of movement. And if that hotspot is somewhere where you're not expecting it to be, then you can look and see what's going on out there. It might be product is slotted in the wrong area or something like that, but you can actually see that through the lighting data. Even though it's not exact, you can still tell where areas might be more used than you expect. So that's kind of neat. And we're just now diving into those numbers and data, so we haven't got a chance to really use that yet, but it's going to be effective later. The reporting is one thing that we didn't set out on this to gain. It wasn't no one actually said, gosh, if we just had reporting on our lights, that'd be great, No one said that, but once you see the reporting in a smart lighting system, it's really hard to imagine what you did before that. Like why didn't we have this before, So that was a benefit that we didn't set out to get, but now we have it, we're grateful for it. So there are some really neat reports, and that goes back to all the questions you have when you do this project. You'll have questions from executives, especially about how are things coming, how much are we saving, what happens if we could we save any more? And that kind of analysis can be done beforehand to even tell them, okay, well, if we lower the lights down by X percentage, we'll save X amount of dollars. You can actually do that with some of the smart systems out there. And then one big one that we didn't really bank on was the morale in the business. You know, the employees that came to us for a long time saying that lighting was a safety concern. And we listened. You know, the business listened and said, hey, you know what? Okay, we're going to do this lighting project, and we're going to give you better lighting out in the warehouse, which has, I guess, everyone's morale toward the business has gone up because they had a concern and the business took care of it. So that was one big piece that we didn't expect, probably one of the better pieces of the project. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits as far as financial, the economical, or I should say the green piece side of it, where you're cutting down the emissions in the environment. The environmental piece is also a piece, but the morale of the employees that we had, everyone seems like they're really happy with the lights, so we're tickled about that.
Thank you so much, Cheryl and Jason, for sharing your experience with our listeners today. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for Q&A, and we're seeing some really great questions. Keep them coming. To start off with, we have a question for Liberty Hardware. What was your biggest challenge throughout this entire project?
Well, this is Cheryl. For me, I think it was coordinating everyone. There's so many people in functional departments and collaboration involved. At the beginning, I think that was probably the hardest thing for me, to make sure that everybody was going to do their part, and if there were any hiccups, how they would be handled. I mean, from a team lead perspective, that was my biggest challenge.
Mine, I think, it was different because we handled different aspects of the project. Mine was in the beginning. Mine was probably the vendor selection. We went down a road with one vendor very far and almost signed a contract until Cheryl got involved and there was some red flags. So I think really look at your vendors to make sure you've got the right one for your business. We're very happy with the one we went with, but we almost went down the wrong path. So I think vendor selection was really tough. There's a lot of companies out there, so look at the one that's right for you and go from there.
Yeah, a collaborative team.
Yeah,
is what you need.
Great, thank you. Our next question is also for Liberty Hardware. Why did you start with lighting instead of HVAC?
So in our warehouse, we don't have air conditioning in the warehouse. We have fans, but no air conditioning. So the lighting was the elephant in the room. People really needed or wanted better lighting. There wasn't any complaints about the cold or hotness in the warehouse, So it's actually next steps. We're looking at a lot of new things, and the warehouse the office space wasn't considered in this first phase. What we wanted to do was come in with a project that had a good bang for the buck. It got everyone interested in the potential of what smart lighting can do, and that was definitely the biggest bang for our buck out there in the warehouse. Now, what we'd like to do is, now that we've got everyone's attention on what this can do, is bring it into the office space and do some things there. Maybe look at that, and that's where we have HVAC, so we can look inside the office space there. But for us, the first phase and the biggest wow factor was definitely the warehouse.
Awesome. We have another question for you as well. Someone's asking, can you give us more detail on your expected operational savings compared to the savings realized?
Yeah, so
it's a little difficult because we're only 90 days
right.
in, but
so what we've done, we've only had it actually a little bit less than 90 days. It's been installed, so we're still working with the data, and it does take some time. So don't expect right when you first install it to see that huge amount of savings off the bat, because it really is I'm assuming it's probably the same for all warehouses, but in our warehouse it's really a fine tuning thing. You have certain areas that operate a little differently. Maybe they need the lights on a little longer. Certain areas that don't need lights at all, except when someone walks back there. So it really is a fine tuning type thing, and we've given it 3 months before we really even looked at numbers to try to dive in. As a matter of fact, we have someone coming out tomorrow to just look over our lights. It has digital limits coming out tomorrow to look over the lights and look at our numbers and really get into okay, we'll tweak it here and tweak it there and to realize the most savings. So we're very happy with the savings, no doubt at all. But we've not put a lot of emphasis on it yet because we know it takes some time to get it where it needs to be.
And I think our estimate going in was, our ROI was well under 2 years. We were looking at, I believe, $100,000 in savings. And we did get rebates already in the $75,000 range.
Great. We have a question for Digital Lumens. Can you give us an example of how a smart building with network lighting improves safety?
Sure. So you can look at that a couple different ways. One is you can look at the opportunity to improve security from a more traditional perspective in terms of tracking occupancy trends, identifying outliers in that traffic that indicate something unusual might be going on, and providing a response to that. There are also other benefits and other applications within certain intelligent lighting systems, specifically ours in this case, where there's an emergency management system where you can actually network some of our fixtures with emergency battery backups, which means obviously those lights are guaranteed or insured to go on in the event that you lose power. And then B, sort of in line with the data and the dynamic element of intelligent buildings, you can actually run system analysis on a dynamic cadence that will ensure that the entire system is operational and actually meets the required standards that are required. And then you have obviously very easily documented certification that your system is up to those standards.
Thank you. We have another question for Liberty. Are you looking towards multiple sites with Digital Lumens and allocating the data?
Well, we definitely would. We only have one primary warehouse, and our other warehouses are 3PL, so we kind of lease them and are managed by other companies. So we don't have a direct say on what kind of lighting they use. But if we had multiple sites, yes, we would be. It would be crazy not to. But for our facility, we just had one main facility, and the rest are, other companies manage them. So.
Okay, thank you. So I think that sums it up for today. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. Cheryl and Jason, thank you for providing our listeners with your experiences. Again, the webinar is going to be available on our Bright Talk channel later today. Thank you so much and have a great day.